Oh, wow.
Saw it twice, so I was like, oh my god.
That was just weird.
I always used to see a light coming up,
Yeah.
like a headlight, but there was nobody there.
Oh, it's just disappeared.
Hello everybody, welcome to Truth Proof, and great to be back. Sorry we've been away for a couple of weeks, but we're back. Let's hope we can continue. So great guest tonight. We're going to be talking to Andy Hardy, who were on, I don't know, probably a few months ago, telling us about some of the amazing things that he'd seen and experienced, plus an experience that he'd had close to where I live. But before we pull Andy into the stream, let's just have a few people to thank. I also want to say happy birthday to Michael, who's up at Danesdyke as we speak. He's in one of the cabins there, and it's been great spending a bit of time with you, Michael. Happy birthday today, mate, and hopefully we can have a natter tomorrow. A lot of people being really sort of kind, generous, and supportive of it last few weeks. Karen towards Laura and myself, really appreciate that. Lorraine and what we got, loads and loads of people. There's too many to mention. So, and what can I say? Just thank you. I'm sort of indebted to you all, and thanks for support, guys. I don't want to go into too much detail, but we're going on for 200 people in chat, so let's have a little bit of a name count. And Martin's up here as well. It's been good to spend time with Martin, you know, with Linny and Jack and Pete and everybody else. It's just been great this week. And Martin and his family, always love spending time with them. So we've got Jane Louise Harding. Let's have a look. Patrick Daniel. I hope you're getting well, Patrick. I saw the pictures. I'm sure you are. Let's have a look. Joanna Chapman. Something Escape. I don't know what that one. It's gone now. Jack Hills. Linny will be in, I'm sure. Mrs. Linny. Mia Girl. Ex-Rocket. Carl Dan. Let's have a look here. Sober Carper. Richard Mason. Thudder. And there's going to be loads of people. Lorraine will be in. Dragonborn. And Jane Louise Harding. Darwin Robot. That's a good one, isn't it? But brilliant, guys. Thanks for the support. Really appreciate it. I hope you're going to enjoy what we're talking about tonight. Remember, it's your show. This is your stream, not just mine. So when Lee says, or Gemma says, or Alison, let's have them questions in capitals. Let's like that. We'll test all as minds. None of us have got answers, but we're all throwing it about there, aren't we? And Miss Worm, Karen Behrman, and Karen, great for support. John Black. Oh, brilliant to see John in. Thank you, everybody, and let's just bring Andy in. Else I'll be just doing a thank you session, and it'll be 8 or 9 o'clock. Andy, how are you doing?
Yeah, good evening, sir. How are you?
Very good, thank you, mate. Bit better than the last few weeks, and I've been looking forward to doing live streams. You get like as though you feel you're letting people down, because it's a great community. It's a great bunch of people. 40 and 23, Sober Carper, Jojo. I almost feel guilty when you don't mention people's names, but you just can't do it.
You'd be here all night, mate, if you mention everyone.
You would, but it's brilliant to have such support, and that's what it feels like. And it's not, I know that people are interested in what we're talking about. And when you came on a few weeks ago, Andy, and, you know, that's months now, isn't it? And you were sharing some of your experiences. It's real. It's not some high profile UFO researcher. There's some brilliant ones out there. But this is what it's about, speaking to everyday people like you and me and hearing the experiences. And I feel that's just as important, just as valid. It's just as good to stand on cliff tops talking to Pete and listening to what has happened. And it's not every night, or listening to Lenny or Jack, as what it is listening to, I don't know, George Knapp, Whitley Strieber. You know, I mean that with respect. I spoke for 2 hours with Whitley Strieber last week on his show, but we're all equal. So what's been happening?
Well, to be fair, mate, a bit like you, I felt like I let people down because I started my channel and I knocked maybe, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 videos out. And I got a great reception for them, mate. Everybody loved them. And then cause my work's contract based, I was then back in work and now the videos have tailed off. So it was kind of good timing, mate, when you messaged me this week for something totally unrelated. And then off the back of it, obviously, we end up rigging up tonight.
Absolutely, and we don't normally do the channel straight away, but you mentioned it, so we'll do it a couple of times. So the new channel, what is it?
Yeah, so it's called Andy H Shadows and Sightings, and there's all stuff on there, mate, from my experiences that I spoke about on here. First of all, which started the channel off really, Paul, and then I've got some other stuff on there, mate. I've got some old historic stuff from the 50s and 60s that people probably haven't heard, mate, for what, 60 years maybe.
Yeah.
All stuff like that going forward.
And do you know, Andy, that's what I like about you, because you've buried your head into some archives when time's allowed, because I know you've got family life and work to get on with, but you've really dug deep into some archives. And there's a little private group, and it's not private because it's elitist, but there's Al, there's Andy, there's yourself, and I'm part of it, but I'm only on peripheral, really. Because I've got that much on, I'm not looking into it deep. But you trust me enough that you know I'm not going to run away with your information and say, look what I've found, because you've dug loads of gear up, you've dug loads and loads of interesting reports up, and I've been looking at them as you've been sharing them with Al and Andy and myself.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I dug into those archives, mate, I found all those files. If I come across anything from Yorkshire, mate, or from Bridlington, I sent them to you, because like I say, I'm definitely not a gatekeeper. Like I get the information to pass it to everyone. And I thought, well, if I find anything from Bridlington in Yorkshire, I might as well send it to Paul that might help him connect the dots somewhere that he's been looking for.
And it's brilliant because, you know, sooner or later there's going to be some report and some date that kind of coincides with something that we've got at this end. It doesn't bring us, I don't think it brings us any closer to truth, but it actually validates maybe somebody that's seen something years ago or even recently. It just validates it, because why should we have to feel like we're having to constantly prove ourselves and sort of be truthful, when only people we have to be truthful to, really, and I'm aiming that at everybody in chat as well, are ourselves. You know, and if you're truthfully sharing an experience that doesn't fit the norm, then, you know, we've got to accept it. We need more acceptance within subject and some of the things that you experienced.
Yeah, I think that's why this channel's so successful for you, Paul, because it's ordinary people. And I feel like I feel like especially people in this chat, that's what they want. They want ordinary people telling what they've experienced. Like you say, it's all good with all the polished stuff that George Knapp does and all the information he gets. But if you've got stories from people close to home, it just makes it that more real.
Yeah, well, I like to think that we can do it on all levels, if I'm being truthful. Next Thursday, hopefully, fingers crossed, guys, we're speaking to, I say we, I've got like a second person here, speaking to Reed Summers. And I don't think, and seriously do not think, and if you guys haven't done your research on him or listened to him, look him up. I don't think there's anybody probably is up there with the best in the world when it's being articulate and delivering the message about UFOs. And I think the guy's a genius. I'm astounded when I listen to him speak how fluently he is, and there's no deep thinking. It's all deep thinking, but it's just pours straight out of his mouth. I'm really looking forward to speaking with him. And it'll be all UFO related, I would think. So that should be good. That should be next Thursday. And there's a few people, I need to say this as well before we jump into your stuff, because I put it out there a few weeks ago. If anybody wants to come on live stream and have a talk about their experiences, please do. And I have had a few sort of requests or people saying, yeah, I'd like to do that. If I haven't got back to you, give me a little nudge. It's not because I'm ignoring you. We've just had loads and loads on this last few weeks. And everything's just kind of taken over. But I'm happy, so happy to be here tonight, chatting with you and sharing this with everybody. So shall we jump into some of these accounts that you've found in the archive and tell people where you've been discovering them, please?
Yeah, so I can't remember, mate, how I came across it now, but I heard or saw that there was these files in Newcastle City Library called the 2-4 Society files, and it was the Tyneside
not UFO, TUFO.
2-4. Yeah, so it was Tyneside UFO Society files. And like I say, mate, my work was contract based, so I was off for a little bit. So one day I thought, well, I'll go down to the library and I'll chance my arm and see if I can get into the files. So I goes down there and I went to the main reception desk, and I said, I just want to look at the 2-4 files. And as you can imagine, it was just blank stares from people. And she was like, and the lady on the desk, she's a nice lady, but she's like, I've never heard of them before. I don't think we have any of them. And I was like, I'm sure you do. And she's like, well, if we do, and it's local, like local archive stuff's on the 6th floor. So I goes up the 6th floor, same interaction there. Nobody, that's like, not a clue what these are. And then another lady who worked overheard me, and she went, oh yeah, we've got them. But they're locked away in the strong room. They're vaulted away. So you can't just come in and see them. You have to put a special access form in and check your ID and all that type of stuff. So I was like, all right, okay, well, I'll put the form in. So I put the form in, mate, and then then and there, they let me look at them. Luckily, so they brought all these journals out, mate, and they were pretty. They were substantial. They were pretty thick. But the downside to it was, mate, they'd been over to Sweden, so the Swedish people had wanted to look at them, and typically, mate, when they'd sent it back, some of the stuff was missing.
Yeah, do you know, it's so, it's annoying that, isn't it? You know, that probably, we can't say that anybody's cherry-picked some of the choice stuff, but it is annoying, isn't it? Because
Well, it is, mate, considering the stuff that was missing was the stuff that I wanted as well. So the stuff that was missing was all the handwritten action cards of all the local people that they'd interviewed, which is what went missing, which was because that's really what I wanted. But looking through they were pretty much journals, mate, really. And to call them UFO Society does them a disservice, really, because there's all sorts in there, mate. There's ghosts, there's poltergeists, there's cryptids. To be fair, mate, it's pretty much like your channel, covers everything.
I was just going to jump in then, or like I'm doing now, because in that perfect research, in a way, that they've not just pigeonholed it to UFOs, and they've tried to cover everything.
Oh, it was perfect, mate, especially when, because to be fair, mate, UFOs probably doesn't make my top 3 of the phenomena, really, anyway, that I'm interested in. Cryptids would be my number 1. And when I was looking through the journals, and I found the first cryptid report, and then there was a poltergeist was the next one, I thought, oh, this is even better than I thought it was going to be. And I felt like I'd hit the jackpot, mate, really, with all the different types of reports in there. And then, to be fair, mate, I think maybe the 10th report I looked into was one from Bridlington, and it was something like a UFO torpedo in the sky or something.
Yeah.
That forwarded to you. So that was how I stumbled across the mate. Really.
Just before we jump into some of those, and then there's some cat reports that I know you want to talk about.
Yeah.
And obviously, the place in Sweden that's correlating this huge archive of material for unexplained phenomena. It's a great effort. Yeah, we're not denying that. But have you made any inquiries as to why they've not, where they've gone? I mean, we don't know if they've got them. We don't know if they were there when they were sent. But it seems a shame if people are willing to donate or let archive material go overseas and then it doesn't come back intact.
I think the problem, mate, with it mainly was because nobody had first off, 2 things, mate. Nobody knew they were there. I think that was the first problem. And then when Sweden asked for them, nobody in the library had catalogued anything.
The actual amount of material. Yeah.
So when it come back, it was somebody who'd sent it has said that there's several stuff missing. He couldn't name what was missing. He just knew what he sent out wasn't everything that he got back. And the people at the library told me, mate, that when they'd asked the Swedish people where the rest of the stuff was, they said it must have just got lost in transit.
Not good enough, though, is it? What do we do? What do we do? I mean, my good friend, and I don't know if you know John Hansen, he must have biggest archive in UK. Not in the world, because I dare say these people, if they've been correlating it and collecting it from all over the world for a lot of years, are going to have a monstrous archive. But how do we get to see it? Do you know?
Yeah.
How do we get to see it, and what's its purpose if it's going to? I think the British stuff should stay on British soil, really. But it's not for me to say. I know, our good friend Philip Mantle, I think he's sent a lot of his, if not all of it, to Sweden. And I know Chris Evers is in chat, Outer Limits magazine, so he might be able to clarify that. Well, he's only saying what I think anyway. And yeah, I think Philip sent loads of it to Sweden, and rightly so. He had the idea that after Philip's gone, where's it going to go? Is it just going to get collecting dust in a garage or somewhere like that? I know he's still here, Philip, so I don't. Do you know what I mean? But it's same with me. I've just got piles and piles of reports, and it looks like a bomb's hit it behind either side of me. But I wonder, if I sort of stop breathing right now, I wonder what had happened to it. I wonder what had happened to all these reports. So I can see the point.
It was like when I was going through the journalism of all the stuff. There was reports in there, mate, where they'd worked with the Teesside research, the Teesside UFO research group, and I'm originally from Teesside. So when I was digging into that, it was Andy Ross, the Ghost Whisperer. He'd managed to find who the old director was back in the time, and I put some feelers out, mate, because I'm from Teesside, because I was wondering, mate, because those files, mate, have never been recovered. So, like you say, mate, I bet it's in someone's attic somewhere, sat there collecting dust. So I would love to get my hands on them, but I haven't heard anything back of anyone yet.
There's so much information that's out there that just does, like you said, just either gets put in a skip or collects dust in somebody's attic. There's back in I'm not sure. I always get 54 and 57 mixed up, but there were a lot of information regarding what were called the Silfo saucer, which are on Silfo Moor. I don't know, 25 miles from where I live. Little flying saucer was supposed to have landed. Everybody said it was a hoax, and it probably was. I'm not going to argue with that, but it made all newspapers back in the day, November 1957, and I'd love to find that information, because allegedly this little thing that they found, parts of it are still somewhere in Scarborough. And what I find fascinating about it, I'll not dwell on that too much, is that people said it had been ornately made from a copper water cylinder, but when it was tested with the British Non-Ferrous Metals Association, the purity of the copper were just exceptional. They couldn't understand how high and pure the copper was. Lots of other things. Maybe do a little half-an-hour stream one day on solely on the Silfo saucer, which is on Silfo Moor, with Chris Wright about 3 weeks ago. Just middle of nowhere, really interesting. So I'm rambling, as I do. Big cat sighting, it's not 1968, A168. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right, let's have a look at this, mate. So,
and I will look for questions, guys, in a bit. But so
this got emailed to me, mate, from my friend Kirsty. And until I started the channel, mate, a lot of people didn't know I was into UFOs and big cats and cryptids and things. So let's have a look, mate. Where is it?
Well, just how many people then, Andy, outside of your interest in UFOs until you started the channel, how many people have surprised you then and come at you with a story?
Oh, you know what, mate? It must be about 20 now. Must be double digits. Has to be. And funnily enough as well, mate, some of the stuff I've been sent is from where I used to live. So I had my head buried in these files in Newcastle Library, trying to find a hotspot like you've got down in Bempton. And then people are emailing me from back home saying this happened to me here and this happened to me there. But like I said, mate, I wouldn't have known unless I came on your channel and then started my own off the back of it. Brilliant.
Right, sorry, I butted in again.
Yeah. So my friend Kirsty emailed me. She said, "Big cat seen by both me and Dean, my husband, but Dean had a better luck." So this one, mate, was 5th of August 2017. We were on our way back from Knaresborough after a few nights away. We were driving on the A168 towards Middlesbrough around 11 a.m. due to the time we had to be off the campsite. And she's added some Google images there. Dean said, "There is a black cat in the farmer's field." Then said, "I shouldn't be able to see it from here. How big is it?" I glanced over and saw what I thought to be a giant cat, but I was driving so I couldn't get a good look. It was visible above the crops in the field. Dean has had dogs and cats all his life and could tell by the walk, etc. It was more cat-like. He watched it until we had passed the field.
It's interesting, isn't it? And what did it say? What month? Did you say what month that was? You did?
Yeah, I believe me. It was August.
August.
Yeah, 5th of August, mate, 2017.
I wonder if, I mean, people in chat, there's been plenty who've seen big cats or know somebody close to them who's had a sighting and they think, yeah, they're on the level. But is there a certain time frame that these cats are seen more? Around Buckton, there's a pond at Buckton, in village of Buckton, just outside Bempton. Not this year, surprisingly, but most years, in springtime, people report seeing a black cat around the pond. And why they're not seeing it in winter, I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is, but there's lots of reports, and it's cropped up in local papers over years. People, driving past and thought they'd seen a Labrador crouched against pond having a drink, and then realised it's not a Labrador, it's a black cat.
But weirdly, mate, when you've said that, when I think maybe last time I was talking to you, and we ended up talking about big cats, and my partner afterwards said to me, "Oh, do you know?" Because my partner's from Barnard Castle. She said to me, "Did you not know there was a big cat in Barnard Castle?" I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, it was in the Teesdale Mercury, mate, years ago now, but it was on a place called Scartop, which is out on the moor over there, and it had been seen by several people allegedly going over the top of Scartop Moor, and there was people out looking for it. I don't think they ever found it, obviously, but there was many reports of it."
But the range of these things, Andy, I mean, here in UK, I mean, I don't profess to know what kind of mileage these things will cover, but it's immense in their native sort of locations, where they'd live normally in the world. It's not just 5 or 10 miles. It's an immense area that these things sort of, I won't say patrol, but cover. So you would think it wouldn't be any different here in UK. How they, I don't know, attract each other in the middle of nowhere. If they're really sparse, I don't know. But there's definitely one. Sometimes within the year, every couple of years, they've been seen around Danes Dyke. It was either early this year or late last year. And it tells me it's early this year that I was talking to golfers on the Links golf course, and they, had face-to-face conversations when wildlife police had been, and they'd seen a big cat, and it's like within, not in the distance, it's just there in the grass looking at them. He'd even got a camera. He'd brought himself his own good quality camera with him every day afterwards, hoping he would capture a picture of it. And he saw it with his wife. They were both having an early morning session on golf course. And so they're here, but...
Weirdly enough, mate, now you said that, I was in beginning of October, mate, I was up in Falkirk for a family thing, like my partner's extended family up there. And on the way back, mate, on the Sunday, we were driving back, and it was heavy traffic. And as we're driving back, my partner, Leanne, said to me, "Oh my God, did you see the size of that beige cat on the side of the road that had been killed?" Right. So I'm breaking my neck, trying to look back, trying to see this thing. And I said, how big are we talking? She's like, "It was the size of a deer." She's like, "It was huge." And I was like, "You sure it wasn't a deer?" And she's like, the face of it looked like a cat. And she was like, it was a beige colour. It wasn't the colour of any deer I've seen.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you said the cryptid phenomena kind of interests you more than the UFOs, the cats, because if we look at the cats, I think they're a natural living thing that's just hyper elusive within our all the locations in the UK. People report seeing them, whether some of them are just, as we've said it previously, just covering a vast area, and it's the same ones that are being seen as the sort of, but there's no shortage of food. You've only
100%, yeah.
People, when I put a big cat short film onto the YouTube channel, and you get people going, "There's no food for them," or they're coming out with something, "I just don't believe it, what a load of rubbish," and they cite the food. You've only got to drive around on a night in country locations, and it's teeming with food. And when we talk about big cats, we're not talking about Bengal tigers or lions. We're talking about something that weighs between 80 and tops probably 120 pounds. So it's not going to need a huge amount of sustenance, is it? And that it's just teeming with rabbits, hare, deer, pheasant, and roadkill.
It was like when I went to when I came down when I went to Bempton back in the end of February. I went to Danes Dyke, and and I came out the car park, mate, turned left, walked into that bit of woodland there, and there was 6 deer in there staring at me.
Yeah.
And that was the middle of the day, and you think, I don't know where people think that there's no food in Britain.
Yeah, and that is a relatively busy area. I'd cover a lot of things in Danes Dyke about the strangeness of it, but it's a tourist attraction. It's beautiful and it's busy in day. There are parts of it, the people just mainly stick to the paths, and there are parts of it that I wouldn't say never get any footfall, but rarely get a lot of footfall. But in the daytime, it gets lots of footfall on main paths and that, but what I find fascinating, what I love about talking about these things, particularly Danes Dyke and Bempton, is that the naysayers who say none of this exists. It's not Paul talking about it. Well, it is, but it's other people's reports that I'm putting out there. And as fast as I'm putting one out, there's another one backing up behind it to back those words up. And it makes it difficult, I think, for the people that just think none of this exists. What's he on about? He's just trying to hype this area up as though it's some paranormal hotspot. We've experienced things up there. And law of averages say that if we're going up there 3-4 times a week in unsociable weather conditions, hours of darkness, then eventually we're going to experience something, and we do. But it's rare. But there's a lot of other people coming up there with no interest in this subject who see something, experience something, makes them scratch their head a little bit. They have a look on internet and they contact me. And I love those reports because it makes it don't prove it, but it makes it really difficult for people that say, what a load of rubbish, none of this is happening. And without sounding too sarcastic, it's not happening for you. Not if you sat watching TV with your curtains shut. Yeah. And that's what bulk of people are doing. So
well, it was like during lockdown, mate. So I live in a housing estate, and the housing estate just over the back of mine. During lockdown, mate, the deer came back into the woodland there. Yeah. And I was out walking the other day, and I think I saw maybe 4 or 5 deer in there. So even in housing estates, mate, there's plenty of food if you were something that was looking for something to eat.
It's funny you should say that, because during lockdown, and most people will use social media, don't they? And people were putting on Facebook deer running about. I think it were on West Hill, and West Hill's a council estate.
Yeah.
Running around deer. Just they soon move in, don't they? Nature finds its place again.
Soon takes it back.
Yeah, you can imagine. It's almost like that film I Am Legend, isn't it? Although we don't want what followed. But everything nature just consumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And leaving us we're sort of traceless. So what about then the big cat sighting in Hartlepool? I don't know I don't want to put you on spot here, but we'll stay with cats. And then I'll have a look if there's any questions. I see Clifftop Pete. That must be Pete. Good to see you, Pete. Zeno Escape. Oh, is that the same Zeno? Light Dazzles. Jane Louise Harding. Sorry, you just carry on, mate.
So the next one, mate, was in Hartlepool on the beach.
Really?
Yeah. So this one, mate, was 1st of June 2019, and these are much too, mate. But it was seen on the beach going up the sand dunes back over. It was dusk, and they're walking back to the car towards Blackhall Rocks, and they saw the back end of it and the long tail. She said it was dusk, but the visibility was still good, and they both saw it. And it went off over the sand dunes.
Did they know if it were a beige one or a black one, or did
that was black, mate? They were both black.
They were both black.
Yeah.
And has that report come from that archive?
No, mate. No. So that was one of my friends, Kirsty, emailed me that.
Right. Okay.
Off the back of me doing the channel and finding out I was interested in it.
Yeah. There's a place called Jackson's Bay. I think it's Jackson's Bay in Scarborough, and not a rock angler, beach fisherman and rock angler, but he's down on beach in this cove, and he's night fishing tide as it's coming in. In fact, where we filmed part of Wolflands, you look down into that bay. But anyway, they're not steep cliffs. They're more like, when you get around that side, it's more like just clay and claggy stuff with a little path down. But he got a really, really uneasy feeling. Don't make it paranormal, I know, but I wonder sometimes if a true predator is in the area, whether some kind of primal instinct kicks in within us all. And, you can feel somebody staring at you sometimes, can't you? Do you know what I mean? People do, you put the eyes on somebody and they kind of know. and he got a real uneasy feeling, and he's got his head torch on and turned round and looked towards these cliffs, and they're not like Bempton, as we've just said, probably 20, 30 feet of rambling clay. He said, and there's a huge, he said, I can't even describe it as being a dog or a cat. He said it walked like a cat, but it was sort of like a Great Dane. And it's on all fours walking along, didn't look at him. He says, but it's got the gait of a cat, but it looks like a Great Dane. And the path that he'd come down in the night to do his night fishing, it literally says it took me a bit to get down. And this guy's older than me. He said, it didn't just come down. He said, it just bounded up there and it had gone. He said, and I stayed on beach a little bit longer. I were unsure whether I wanted to go back up. But, do you think in some instances ever there is a paranormal aspect to any of these?
I think the ones that are seen, mate, that look like a puma or a panther, whatever there would be. I think those, mate, like you said, are definitely big cats in some fashion. How they're still breeding or how they're still here, mate, I don't know, but I definitely think they're a flesh and blood entity. But things like that man scene that look like a cat but the size of a Great Dane and the walk weird, I think maybe, mate, there has to be some paranormal element to them.
Yeah,
some way.
I would agree. We've got a place here, Andy. People will have heard me talk about it, Short Lane, which is between Bridlington and Hunt Road to Bempton, and it's literally just a mile of single track road with a few pull-ins, and there's nothing. There's a little low hawthorn edge that's even broke up intermittently, and I won't say loads, but there must be 4 or 5 big cat reports on Short Lane, and it doesn't make sense. There's nothing there. You've got fields at one side which are just grass. Occasionally they'll grow crops, and occasionally you'll see cattle in the other side. It's really strange. I've got a question here, not so much a question, but wanting as observations, and you might know more about this than I do. So I'll just put this up. South Coast Richard. Good evening, Paul and Andy. Are you concerned about any rumours or concern about the 3-Eye Atlas? Many thanks. Any thoughts on that?
I don't have any concerns about it, mate.
No.
The problem with that is, mate, now I think the water's been muddied that much by both sides. I don't know what to believe about it, to be honest with you.
Okay, fair enough. We've got another one from Steve Collin. Hi, Paul. Have you had any reports or strange sightings near Snainton earlier this month? I haven't, mate, but it sounds like you know something, Steve. So let's have a natter about that, tomorrow or over the weekend if you want. And just highlight that. We'll just go down a little bit, and if you're all right with that, Andy.
Yeah, found it. Yeah.
All right, I know what this concerns, and it is about you, Andy. So we'll just do this. Honolucci, any updates on the interrogation people?
No, mate, I haven't. I've got no. To be fair, mate, I haven't. I've pretty much exhausted how much information I can find out, and I think they've pretty much closed ranks on me as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So every time Andy's been on, people, a lot of you will know this story, and he might not thank me for asking him to repeat it. But if you want to break it down, half the story, if you know what I mean, and you came to Bempton, I can't remember what month, with your partner, hoping to just see and experience something strange or unusual, maybe. And what happened?
Yeah, so we were down there, mate. So quickly, I went there on the Friday night. Friday night was fine. Didn't feel anything, but I didn't stay that long. And then the Saturday night, mate, we headed down, and we were down at the stand in front of RAF Bempton. We were down there, and we heard some people talking in the car park. And then seen the head torches, mate. So I flashed my head torch in case it was yourself or Linny or someone who was down there. And these 3 people came heading straight towards me. And when they came over, they told me they were search and rescue. They clearly weren't search and rescue. They had some strange tactics where they had the head torches in my face. So I couldn't see who they were. They didn't ask what my name was. They didn't ask anything like that. They were very direct. They were direct, but they were evasive, if that makes sense. They wanted to know who had what I was doing there, who I was with, had I seen anyone. They then walked off in the direction of RAF Bempton, and there were maybe 500 meters away from where we were. We then decided to leave to go back to the car, and within 5 seconds, mate, they're on top of us. So they must have ran, Paul. They have to have.
Yeah.
Now thinking about it, but I didn't hear anything. But they were right behind us, breathing down my neck. We get to the car park, and then another two jump out of the hedge and say it was, "Have you been interrogated?"
They said to you, "Have you been interrogated?"
Yeah, have you been interrogated yet? And then the guy behind me said to the woman who said the interrogation piece, he went, "I've already spoken to them. They haven't seen anything." We've then jumped in the car, left. They've then followed us all the way back to the Airbnb I was staying at in Buckton. And then they've parked in the driveway and watched us get out and go into the Airbnb. And then I assume sometime after that, mate, they've drove off. That's obviously the very, very condensed version, guys.
Yeah. I'm glad you've sort of condensed it, because I know that a lot of people have heard it and probably heard it twice, but it's no less interesting. And not Mark Sparks, and good to see you, Mark. It's the Saxon as well. It's not the fact that you've repeated it now 3 times and once condensed. It's the fact that it's almost intimidation. And it just shows that you don't want to be in these locations on your own. I'm not saying that they would have caused you any harm, but I don't think it were a nice experience. I think it unnerved your partner as well. I think, did it?
Yeah, it did. I mean, to be fair, it unnerved us both, mate. Especially during the time when it happened, because I know it's hard to explain to people, but everything about the interaction fell off. And the instant I knew they weren't search and rescue, they had no kit on them, mate. They had no equipment. There was no radios. The uniform wasn't right. The way they were acting wasn't search and rescue-esque, because I've worked with them before. And as soon as all those peacemaker kicked into place, it unnerved me, because I thought, why would you lie about being search and rescue? And why are you up here? So yeah, 100%, mate, it was unnerving. But I mean, if you go back on your channel, mate, on Man, you can watch the full interview on either channel. And it breaks it down because there's some bits I've left out that make the story probably a bit more creepy.
Absolutely. And just before we look for another question, I'll move on to another one of these short accounts that you're going to tell us. I think it was the 6th of October. I might be wrong with date, but a chap and his wife, Chris and his wife, came to Danes Dyke, and they parked in the top car park, the field. You've got the main car park, which is tarmac, then a field, and then another field on way out. And that's where they parked, at the side of a steel container, I think, that contains gardening and maintenance equipment. And they're facing the hedgerow. But prior to that, they'd been they parked up and they'd had a little walk round, and they said in big car park, they didn't park in there because it were full of police, Coast Guard, all sorts of official type of people. Obviously didn't inquire what were happening, but they drove out of that and went into that other one. While they're walking round, he said there's a large is a small car, fixed wing drone flying around low. So they observed that. Then they sit in the car and they're having something to eat. They call it a carnic. I've never heard of a carnic.
Neither have I.
Yeah. So anyway, it's all right. You know, that's what you call it. That's what you call it. But anyway, they're having something to eat. They're in a Fiesta. They've obviously got the wing mirrors. They've got the rear mirror. This makes sense in a moment. They're sat there just eating a sandwich, having a cup of coffee, and a grey back rose up. A grey fur-covered back rose up in front of the bonnet and went down really fast. He said, but we saw enough to see it was fur, and it was grey, and it was quite big, and it went up and down. They said, we sat there. Did you just see that? Yeah, I saw it. And we said, looking in his mirrors, nothing at the side of the car, nothing behind the car. They can't see anything in front of the car. They can't see it move to right or left. So oddly enough, he said, because they weren't frightened, I don't think. They were just sort of, oh, wow, what was that? They didn't get out of the car straight away. I think I'd have, not bravery here, people. I think if we were looking at a cryptid, I'd either stand very still or back away. I won't be advancing towards it. But what I'm saying is they didn't get out of the car. That, for me, would have warranted me getting out of the car to see what that was. It's daylight. It's an after. So that all happened on the same afternoon that we've got these emergency services there and the fixed wing drone. I don't know whether there's a connection or not, but I found that fascinating. So there you go. So
that in itself, mate. If that grey back rises up and then disappears, to me, mate, that has to be supernatural. It can't be something flesh and blood.
What's interesting, and we spoke about this. Michael, who's up in area now, is been up. I don't know, about 3 or 4 days. He's staying at Danes Dyke in one of the cabins. He's the guy that on, I think it was the 19th of October in 2023, saw this thing walk across the road and behind a car, amazingly behind a Fiesta, but not the same people. And when I spoke about it and I walked around Danes Dyke with Michael, we walked into that because where he saw it walk across, it's where the road veers round and goes out of the dike. It's at the other side of it is that cabin, and where these people were parked, which is probably a quirky coincidence, but it's still interesting. So yeah, I don't know what you guys think to that, but I just find all these stories fascinating. And I've got another one here. Let's just have a look at this. Mark the Spark, Paul and Andy, do you find any more research? Do you find the more you research the old files, the more you see the massive cover-up by military stroke governments? I think you might have something to say about that.
I do, mate. Yeah, to be fair, Mark, I found the opposite, mate. Going back, I was saying to Paul earlier in the green room before we started, I couldn't believe when I was going through those old files that the UK government, Canadian, American, and Russian were all admitting in the 50s and 60s that they were working on sources. There's numerous articles made out of papers that they're admitting they're making flying saucers. One of them admits to making one that can go 1,500 miles an hour. They've got the designs of them. They've got briefs. So back in the 50s and 60s, mate, they were quite open about the fact they were trying to build these things.
But what do you think, though, Andy? Do you think... I know we don't know, but do you think that could have been a cover-up of sorts, that they'd actually got acknowledgement that these things were visiting us? I know that sounds pro the flying saucer, but do you think that could have been a cover-up?
It could be. I mean, it could be a case of, the old tactic of like bait and switch. We'll tell you we're building a UFO over here, a flying saucer. So you're all looking at that one, but what we're really going to be building is those black triangles over here.
Yeah,
and you won't see any of that because you're too busy focusing on us telling what we are building.
Yeah, look at this, and because the magic's happening in this one kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah, I get it. It's plausible. Before we go on to another question, then, so unless I'm putting you on spot here, what about the UFO encounter at Stockton?
Yes, so this one, mate, was fantastic. So this is from my friend again, Kirsty. So she said, mate, this experience happened in the early 2000s when she was a teenager. Me and a friend were staying over at my grandparents' house in County Durham. It was dark and in the evening, but not overly late as my grandparents were still downstairs. So she said it was between 9 and 11 p.m. They were upstairs in the back bedroom chatting. We noticed it seemed to get darker. It was night now, but as we were in the middle of town, it never seemed to get truly dark. But this time it did. It also went eerily quiet, as in completely silent. We could no longer hear the muffled sound of my granddad's TV on downstairs or anything at all. I remember being aware of my heart racing as this weird atmosphere seemed to loom in. I could breathe, but the air was heavy. Me and my friend looked at each other confused and scared but curious. A bright white light appeared through the window. The best way I can describe it, it was like a huge fog light with a blue-grey tinge to it. The light was coming from above, but we couldn't hear a sound. We looked at each other and creeped over to the window. All we could see was blackness, like something big was blocking the night sky. And we could just see the smooth underneath. The light seemed to be coming from a central point of whatever it was. We both slumped to the floor under the window for what seemed like hours, but we have no idea how long it really was. Then the light disappeared and the atmosphere changed to how it was before. We were aware of noises again and the blackness had returned to usual nightlight. We jumped into bed too exhausted to talk about what had happened. The following morning, we asked our grandparents if they had noticed the light, but they had just shrugged it off as a helicopter or something and said they hadn't seen it. If I was on my own, I would have probably put it down to a dream, but we both remember it clearly to this day. I sometimes get the same eerie feeling when hearing or reading about other people's experiences. I think this is where the fascination started, but also why I fear so much.
It's interesting, isn't it? And why she fears so, and she fears so much. And this is Kirsty, is it? Yeah, and she's no memory of anything happening yet. The fear's there, And that's what happens with so many people. I wonder if these presences, these intelligences, deliberately put that fear on us, to stop us actually going to the window and looking, to stop us thinking about it too much. Because it's almost like PTSD, isn't it? It's a trauma for a lot of people.
Well, I think I said last time I spoke to you and you, Paul, I believe it feeds off fear. And I believe that's when people say, how do these supernatural, when you see, when sometimes people see werewolves or those types of cryptids, and they say that you never see anyone, you never see anybody take anything. And I always think, personally, I think it's because scaring them is what gives it energy or what gives it sustenance type thing, so they don't need to.
You're spot on. When I went into Broxer Forest with Chris Wright a few weeks ago, we were talking about this, and Steve, who were in Wolflands, brilliant guy, absolutely top man. Not just because he were in Wolflands, and I've got to know bloke, and he's I really like him. But he said something that I'd never thought about, and I think I've mentioned it probably once on the channel. And when they saw this creature, this thing that stood in the forest observing them, Steve's had a colourful life, he said, and I'm not really frightened of lots of things. He says, but I've never felt fear like that, anything on that scale in my life. But the thing that got me, he said, it weren't my fear. He said, that was not my fear. He said, I got that terrified. I couldn't look at it. And his eyes are self-illuminating. He says, so I knew it was there. He says, and every time I sort of attempted to have a look, it put more fear on me. And I thought, I've never, and I wonder if other witnesses have sort of digested what they're feeling and whether there's a similar process at work here, and whether maybe you're too frightened to actually start to think about this. But he's thought about it a lot, and he said that fear was not his. He says, if I looked at it or I tried to look at it, the fear became even stronger. And I found that part of it fascinating, so strong that in the end he said, I wanted it over. I wanted it all to end, as in literally wanted an ending to everything. And we don't have to go into the details of what he wanted because we know.
You know what that sounds like, mate, there? The way he said it, that would be the perfect way to describe that bubble of fear that I walked through in Dartmoor, manufactured fear that somebody put there. Like I say, it wasn't my fear because I was out there all the time. But when I walked into it, that's probably the best way, mate, I've ever heard it described, manufactured fear. That
is why it stuck with me when Steve said it. And you've done it again now. There'll be people in here. We're going on for 300 people in chat. There'll be people in here who've heard this, but tell us about the fear in Dartmoor. Go on, you've got to do it now because you brought it up.
So I was on excise on Dartmoor when I was in the military, and we were near a bit of woodland.
No rush, Andy. Went out.
And I could see these red lights in the woodland, and I was annoyed because I thought, and I could hear people talking, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. It was just you could hear people mumbling to each other, and I was annoyed because I thought if any of the DS, the directing staff, come and find them, we're going to get pieces up and down Dartmoor. We're going to get ran into the ground here. So I've took off into the woodland, and as soon as I've got close to the red lights, they've just went off. And the noises stopped, like the speaking stopped. So I've shouted out and said, look, I know you're in here. I wasn't as polite, but I was like, get back to the harbour area, get under your bashes, and start and do night routine. I don't know what you're doing in here. It's pointless. So then I'm stood there listening, waiting to hear the footsteps and people moving, but nobody moved. There was nothing. So I'm like, where the hell are these people here? So anyway, so at this point, mate, I've started to walk back to the harbour area, and then I walked into I always called it, mate, a bubble of fear or anxiety, and I walked into it, mate. You could feel, I felt walking into it, so it felt like going into a pool, like you could feel it change.
Are we still advancing?
No, mate. So that's me walking back. So obviously the way that I'd ran in, mate, was obviously different to the way that I'd walked out,
right?
Because I didn't hit it on the way in. So on the way out, I've walked into this bubble of fear. And like I said, mate, it must have been about 10, 20 meters of long. I didn't know that until I started running. But like I say, that manufactured fear, mate, came over me, and I've took off at full pelt to get out of it. And like I say, I physically felt coming out the other side of it. It must have been about 10, 20 meters long. And then once I've got out the other side, I'm normal. Like I say, that manufactured fear. I'm stealing that phrase now.
Yeah.
That was gone. And then I've turned around and I've walked in and out of it a couple of times, and you could feel it. You could still feel it walking into it. Obviously, the next morning, mate, I've went to check if it was still there, and I couldn't find it. But to be fair, with it being nighttime, and I didn't work out correctly where it was, I didn't sense it or feel it the next day.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? And I don't think I've felt fear up there once, and I'm not going to it because I've done it loads of times, but not to that degree. But fear, we've been frightened. But
I did that night that I met those interrogation people, mate, didn't I? When I was on that lane, I always forget the name of it. That Cliff main lane, Cliff Lane. When I'm driving up Cliff Lane, mate, honestly, the fear level, mate, went from a 1, and it was probably a 12 by the time that I hit that car park.
Strange, isn't it? It's strange. Yep. And if I hope Mark's listening to this, because he comes up there with us probably 3 times a week, and he also arrives an hour later. And this is the guy everybody knows. I've spoke about him, that goes all over the place wild camping. Doesn't seem to fear much. Likes his own company. Likes the dark. Walked into that, and he said it was like walking into a wall of fear. He says, and it built and built. He said, I can't explain it, and it's really, really. That's messed with his head, but it's made his head tick a little bit because he just can't work out why he walked into that fear. And he said, I walked out of it. He said, I could feel myself walk out of it.
Yeah. To be fair, I'm still 100% adamant that those things that Mark walked through and that I walked through, I still think that's the phenomena's version of a trail camera. I'm adamant of it. I'm adamant that it's set there as kind of a booby trap, and you walk into it, then the phenomena knows you're there.
Okay, but then that implies that for some reason it's at work doing something and it doesn't want you there. I just wonder if it's the fact that it's enjoying inflicting the fear on you and taking something from you. But I don't know. There ain't a right answer, and yours.
No, it's all theories, mate, isn't it?
Yeah. So let's have a look at this. The Shadow 33. What's your view on ley lines and UAP sightings in the northeast? And we'll throw that wide anywhere. Do you think there's a connection, a correlation?
To be fair, mate, I've never looked at the I've never looked at the correlation. Like I say, the UFO stuff, mate, kind of got, I don't want to say forced on me, that's wrong, but it kind of fell into my lap. It was never something that was high on the list of me looking into it. Like I said, I was always cryptids and ghosts, and I probably still am, really. I've got an interest in the UFO stuff, mate, but like I say, it kind of fell into my lap. I will say though, mate, so you know when I just said that story about the UFO from Kirsty.
Yeah.
So it was also Kirsty, mate, who's seen the two black cats.
Ah, right. Yeah, it's all right. I've just Lee's put that up about Wolfland. So
yeah, and I think.
Do you think it's more a case of like Kirsty's got a few reports there? Then do you think the more you see, the more you see?
100%. I was going to say that. I think that you only have to see one to see the rest of it. I think there's definitely, you know, like they say, there's gateway drugs. I think that 100%, mate, there's like gateway phenomena. Like you see one, but it's all interlinked somehow. So, like I say, I started off by seeing that weird thing when I was a kid, and then that led on to shadow figures, and then I saw the UFO. Same with yourself, Paul. You know, you start off with the UFO stuff, then you saw the big cat, and that type of thing.
How much of that then, Andy? Once again, I'm not expecting to have an answer, but how much of that do you think is deliberate? That in some way, the plans are being laid for Andy later in life. You've a long time till retirement, I would have thought, but you've a fair old few years. But this is what he's going to do. He's going to edge a little bit closer to the truth and spread the word a little bit more. How much of these plans or these things that you saw in early life and these things that you're looking into now, how much is that designed by the phenomena or some other intelligence to put you on that path?
Good question, mate. You know, I think there's definitely. What I think is, mate, when you see what I've said, like when you see the gateway phenomena, I think because that disturbs your sense of reality so much, your mind is then open to whatever else is seeing. So, like for example, if you see a shadow figure and you 100% know you've seen a big cat or cryptid or whatever it would be, your brain is now open to the fact of there's things out there that you don't know about.
Yeah,
and you're not closed off anymore. So once it's open to a cryptid, say for example you've seen Bigfoot off the top of my head, once your brain's open to Bigfoot, your brain's then like, well, why are you seeing a ghost that much of a leap? It's not you're just moving sideways, aren't you? And then once you've seen a ghost, a UFO is not that much of a big deal to you, because and I think that's what it is, mate. That's the spectrum of the phenomena. I think once you've seen one, your brain is open to. Once you've seen one, mate, you can just jump to the next. It's not that big of an issue for you to believe, because you've also seen something that people tell you don't exist, but you know does.
Yeah, I agree, but then you've got the people who flatly don't believe. I've come across people who've seen things, and then almost, and they're not stupid, but they sound stupid. But I don't believe in any of that. So are you telling me then that you saw that silver cigar-shaped object? This is hypothetical. Sat there in the sky, and you looked at it for 2 minutes, and then it just vanished. But you don't believe in any of that. It's almost my mind's made up, and I'm not changing it. Do you think that's a cultural thing, or something within the family setup where they've been brought up to believe that all of this is a load of rubbish?
I think there's an element of fear there, mate. They've seen something that questions their entire worldview, and it's easy for them to say that wasn't real. I didn't see that, and then you don't have to think about anything, because once you see something, mate, and you accept you've seen it, you'll know the rabbit holes you end up going down, and the time it invests and the time that it saps from you is unbelievable. Like I say, you could if some billionaire mate paid me, you could do this 7 days a week. You never get tired of it. Yeah. It's fascinating. I just think it comes from a place of fear where people think, nope, I didn't see it, therefore it doesn't exist, and I don't have to acknowledge my world's changed.
Yeah, you're spot on. And, and somebody messaged me or emailed me probably a couple of weeks ago and said they'd been listening to some early podcasts years ago that I'd been talking about the phenomena and where I'm at with it today, and the views have changed. And I'm so pleased that I don't say, look, this is how it is, and I'm not going to change my mind, because we don't know. Because as fast as you start coming up with ideas as to what it could be or working out theories, something else happens that just sends you on a totally different road, doesn't it? And that's what makes it. It's a thrill. We stand up on them cliff tops, anything from like 4 of us to 8 or 9 of us, and we're there, and bulk at time nothing happens, but because things have, and some of it's been quite spectacular, you're open. It makes it every time we go, it's worthwhile going. Even when we've stood in cold and dark, and you walk back and you get in car and you think, well, no, it happened tonight, did it? And most of the times that's what we're saying. But you just want that little ingredient, because what we're experiencing, and we're not unique. Everybody in chat's experienced this to some degree, be it ghosts, UFOs, whatever your genre is. What you're experiencing, you can't pick that from anywhere else in the world. And I don't mean you've got to go out and look for it, but once you're open to it, like you've just said, Andy, it's there, isn't it? You know the potential.
Yeah, I do think, mate, that when you said before about are things laid out for you in terms of the phenomena that you see over life, I think, mate, for people like me and you, or not just people like me and you, people who see things at a young age, like we did, or we experienced at a young age, I think that there is a path laid out for you in terms of you are going to see a lot more phenomena than, I won't say most people, but people who haven't experienced that. I think you find a lot of people, mate, who potentially see one UFO in the life, or UAP. Sometimes, mate, I think a lot of that is you're just lucky and it's chance. And I think if you've seen something at a young age, no matter what you're told, then you know that there's other stuff out there that's real and exists. And so your world, mate, is forever changed. The way you look at the world, mate, your perception is permanently changed then. So like even when people tell you stuff now of, I don't believe in UFOs because the technology doesn't exist, I think, all right, okay, but I know they exist because we've seen them. Yeah,
you're spot on. We put the short on earlier, or I put the short on earlier in week. Why do I keep saying we? It's like there's 2 on me. Put the short on earlier in week, and I think somebody in comments said, the cryptids. I love these fake cryptid stories. They make me laugh. Comments. I didn't remove it at all, but a few people commented underneath. Well, they will make you laugh until you've seen one, until you've actually seen one. And it's so easy to just these throwaway comments, isn't it? If you've not seen or experienced it, Andy.
Well, I went to New Orleans, mate, last May, and I went on we did like a tour, mate, of like the swamp, and we did the bayou, and we did a plantation and stuff. And I've got a T-shirt on now, actually, mate. It's got a Rougarou on it. I picked up from the shops down there. Yeah. And when we were doing the tour, that is one of the first stories you get told. 'Cause on the bus, and he was like, "Oh, does anyone know what Rougarou is?" And obviously, I'm like, "Oh, yes, it's French for werewolf." And he's telling us the story, mate, of how it came to be down there. And obviously, it came from the French colonizer and all that type of stuff. But when I was in New Orleans, like getting food or whatever, I would talk to anyone down there because that whole culture, mate, is open to that type of stuff. And everyone's quite open about talking about it. And down there, mate, 100% there believe the Rougarous are real. A real entity, and there was a couple of people down there, mate, who said they'd saw it.
Really?
And they'd experienced it. Yeah, like it's down there, mate. If anybody wants to go to New Orleans, if you're interested in the subject, go there because everybody, mate, has seen something or experienced something. It's like a hot spot for stuff down there.
Fabulous. Honestly, it's a long way to go, though, isn't it? Well, it's out there. We know it's out there. I don't know what this question's about, but let's have a look at it. Paul Lee Prendergast. I wonder if people up north are starting to see more muntjac deer. They're invasive and a big population in the south, but moving north, they do look odd. People are seeing muntjac deer, Rocket, but muntjac deer aren't anything new to that area. We've seen muntjac deer. In 2006, people were reporting them, seeing them in Danes Dyke. So that's like 19 years ago. Before that, I've looked in archive, and I don't know if a muntjac deer is another name for a Chinese water deer, but they found Chinese water deer at Danes Dyke as well, and that's the words that they use for them. Somebody more in tune with the species of deer than me might be able to tell me if that's the same thing. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we're sometimes mistaking things for other species?
No, I mean, to be fair, mate, but muntjac deer do look odd, don't they? Like if you never see, But I mean, if you see a muntjac deer, mate, you're not going to mistake it, are you, for a werewolf?
No,
or a Bigfoot. So I mean, you could be seeing a muntjac deer, but you're definitely not. You can't
mistaking
it for
something on four legs, And what I love about these reports, we Chris Turner's been, Lee Roscoe's been, Lee's moderating for us with Gemma, and I don't know if Alison's in. If you are, Alison, good to see you. I see Ben's in. Oh, Doc Martin's in. Good to see you, Martin. It's been great spending some time with Martin and his family this week. Really enjoyed your company. Darwin Robot, we've done that. I liked that name,
So Darwin Robot, mate, is my mate Dale and Miss Worm as well. I'll just give Ginger a shout out as well, mate, because I've been speaking to Ginger this week.
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, you feel guilty sometimes, and Dogman TP Hunting, Phil's in, so it's good to see Phil, and absolutely brilliant. Let's just so another question here. Phil would like that question. Which cryptid fascinates you the most, Andy, and why?
Werewolves, mate, for me. I won't say Dogman, mate, because I think it's a stupid name.
I'm glad there's somebody else on the same page as me.
Stupid, mate. It's like you don't call Bigfoot Monkey Man, do you? Like it's a stupid word. But werewolves, mate, for me, I think the whole thing of I don't believe the change, mate, from people into wolves. But the whole werewolf thing, mate, fascinates me. Like the guy who is in one of your Truth Proof books, Paul, who was out poaching, and he saw that werewolf-like creature.
Are we talking about the one that jumped over the hedge?
Yeah, that's the one, mate. Yeah. Like just the aesthetic of it, the stories behind it, everything about the werewolf, mate, just fascinates me. It's just one of those things that caught my imagination.
It really does, and we need to detach ourselves, people, because I look at the comments and I always try to reply to people, and somebody said, "Oh, werewolves didn't exist until somebody started making films about them." No, you're so wrong. These stories, these accounts go back thousands of years in some instances, and definitely hundreds of years around the Flixton area.
Yeah.
But so we're not talking about silver bullets and full moons, but Michael's up in the area, like I said earlier, and he's staying in Danes Dyke. not in a tent, in some lovely log cabins in Danesdyke. And what he saw sort of turns things on its head slightly, because when he saw this thing walk across the road, and Michael's better at telling it than me. Nobody's better than the witness at telling these stories, but it were real tall, a brimmed hat on, a coat that almost looked green and brown as though it were flexing almost. And there were no wind, and it's wafting about. And then when it went behind the car, it stooped down, and he said it transformed. There were fur coming out the back. And so
fascinating, mate.
What is happening? And I have another report which I'm not going to go into. I spoke about it once, and I don't even like talking about it because the people are still in the area who shared it, and they know a little bit. They're a little bit too close to the bone. They know what's going off. They keep messaging me odd times. Every time there's a report, I get messages off these people wanting to know where it is, and they're wanting to know, and they know details actually that they shouldn't know about report, which is odd. But anyway, and I don't mean anybody's listening to my phone. Let's have a look. Oh, we got Al Durham in. Let's have a look. This will be a good question, I would think. Andy, the Hartlepool sighting, was that on the headland or further north?
I think it was on the headland, but Kirsty, I'll send me pictures on Google Maps and circled them, mate. So I'll WhatsApp them across to you after this.
And I think Al Durham, he'll shake his head when I say this, but he's a perfect example of somebody who can research the hell out of something accurately, in depth, as good as anybody you'll ever meet, and just sits in background and does his own thing, which is there's no wrong with that, Al, by the way, but it just shows there's people out there just putting a load of effort in, and they're just happy doing their own thing. And I'd love to get Al on here, to be honest.
He's a great researcher, Al.
Absolutely, he really is. If there's I really wanted somebody to dig into, Al's your man. Let's have a look. We'll just go down here. Then we'll. In fact, let's have a go at this. Did we do the Dover big cat sighting?
Oh no, so I'll do that one, mate. Let's do
that, and then I'll see if there's any more questions. And Lee Rocco's doing that. Gemma's doing that, and Ginge. Do you carry on? Take notice of me.
Yeah. So it's from my mate Colin, mate. He emailed in. So he said, in regards to black cats wandering the areas, I believe 15 to 20 years ago, I saw one coming home from work. I live in a village near Dover and was on my way down the country lanes. I'm sure the large black cat, Alsatian size, was running down the lane. I lifted my legs up while driving. When I told my missus and parents who were on holiday, they all laughed and the piss taken pursued. Only one person believed me, and she had a manor house close to the sightings, and she had seen something go in their chicken coop with a very high fence, and all the chickens, mate, were gone. Still believe I saw it, but the lanes are dark.
Right.
Nowadays, best regards, Colin. But then you like we were saying earlier, mate. People who say, I love hearing about these fake cryptid reports or these cryptid sightings or anything for that matter. All's that really, mate, is waiting for you on the end of admitting you've saw something is ridicule. Mm. So why would you do it? Like, it just makes no sense to me, mate, why you would come out and say you've seen a big cat or you've seen a werewolf.
Thank you. There's nothing to gain, is there?
No, absolutely nothing, mate. No. Everybody assumes, mate, you tell your story and you've got £3 million in the bank from YouTube. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me why you would come on, lie about it, and face the potential ridicule.
And that's exactly what it is. I love it. I get loads of reports now. I mean, it's took years to start getting these reports in. And anybody that's listening to this and thinks, well, I've sent him a report and he's not done it. I've got piles of them here, and we're going to get through some of these on Sunday. I've got one that I was talking to Andy about. I'm not going to do it tonight. If we do one on Sunday, we're going to be doing it Bakelite. I've called it. Bakelite? What we're talking about, a Bakelite radio. It's one of the most interesting reports I've ever been sent. And the guy who sent it will know Mark, who sent it me. What are you doing, dog? Will know exactly what I'm talking about. So fascinating. And,
that is a good one. That is a good one.
And we only sort of scraped it. Let's just have a look at this. And I'm going to apologise to Shadow because Andy might remember. So Shadow messaged earlier, Paul, this happened to us a few weeks ago. They were MOD 100%. They quizzed us too. There was something in earlier. What did Andy speak about earlier? I don't want to go right up, chat, else I'll lose my thread where I am with questions.
Oh, it's about it'll be about the people who interrogated me at Bempton, won't it?
That's what I think. But I'm wondering if Shadow put anything in about himself originally, or whether he just had. But this happened to us a few weeks ago. They were MOD 100%, and then they quizzed us. Please get in touch, Shadow. Lee can put my email address up, or Gemma can. Somebody just lob email address into this, please. And if you want to get in touch, I'd love to hear more, and I'm sure Andy would as well.
Oh, 100%, mate. Yeah.
Right. Let's.
Like I say, mate, the people definitely had a government feel to them. They just weren't military. They didn't feel that way anyway.
I'll tell you what's interesting. I see Martin's got a question there. Before we get to it, there's been two unusual occurrences up there. What we've seen with the thermal camera. So Jeremy, who comes up onto cliff tops with us, I mean, he lives in what should be a UFO hotspot. He doesn't live in Filingdales, but he lives close. But he travels down to this area because he's seen things in Bempton. We were waiting for him coming, and we watched car headlights coming about half a mile away, and we thought it were him. And I put a thermal camera on, which is a good one, a pulsar one, looking into distance. I said, well, it's not Jeremy. There's two of them. And I can see two heat signatures. When Jeremy arrives, he's all flustered, he says, because he sat in his car answering phone, and his car door handle flicked up. He panicked and moved from top car park to bottom, and then hastily made his way down to us. So that's two. And I'm not sort of adding mystery to it. We knew nothing about what he'd experienced until he got to us. And I'm telling lads, Pete and Linny, I don't know who else were with us, and Mark maybe. No, it was just Pete and Linny. There's two. I can see two heat signatures, not together, but they're sort of fairly close. This week, I think it was this week or late last week, there's a guy come up to the area called Phil. He walked all the way along the cliff tops in the night on his own from Speeton, did a full circuit, real brave. Walked up to us, so he walks up to a bunch of like 6 or 8 people who we don't know who they are. He's not met us before. Gets talking to him, that. Tell us he's staying in an Airbnb in Bempton. We see a light coming from the opposite side, from Flamborough side, and we all commented it's probably Phil, the guy who come up other night. Put the thermal on, I can see 2 people. There's 2 people. So when he gets to us and said, did you see anybody else? And luckily this time we actually saw 2 lights as well, because Phil's got a torch and we saw another little flick of light. And we all saw that. There's only Paul, me, can see 2 people in thermal. Yeah. So he gets to us, he says, no, there was nobody else there. And anybody that doesn't know lie at land, you do, Andy. And I've described it, but there might be people in chat. You're on a cliff-top path. There's no street lights. There's nothing. You've got the North Sea. You've got fields, and you've just got blackness unless there's a moonlit night. He says, there's nobody else. I said, listen, there were 2 of you. There were 2, and you were fairly close. He says, I was looking round with my torch. I mean, Linny will be listening to this. Pete will be listening. Nobody were there. So we've got this. Is that even a phenomena? There's something strange. There's another presence with people up there that they're not seeing. It unnerved him after we'd told him so much that I drove him back to Airbnb. He says, you're not walking back that way, are you? He says, I don't feel like it. I says, you can get my car, go back with me. And me and Linny, we took him back because it just didn't seem right, you know? And then this week, only Wednesday, Jeremy's managed to pick on his thermal up a figure. I've not seen it. I've seen it, but I haven't got it on the computer yet. I asked him yesterday if he'd send it me. There's the outline of a person. And when he gets there, there's nothing there. So that's interesting. So there's an heat signature. Well, I don't know.
You know what it seems like, mate? It seems right. Like you'll be on one avenue or train of thought, or you're going down.
You in another direction.
Yeah, and just right when you might be getting to a point of you might find something out. It'll be like, right, we're going to throw Paul 2 people here on the thermal just to throw him off, and you end up going down a totally different route, mate. And then before you know it, you're down. You forgot whatever.
We've said this, Andy. Seriously, and I don't mean I've said it. We've all said it. It seems to go in phases. We were having a lot of instances where we'd all seen, and not just in ones, dark outlines of people. You call them ghosts if you like. They're just shadows of people walking, and people who aren't related to anything we're doing have told us about it and come and met us and said, I was up here with my wife and I saw this and I moved off the cliff tops and I never said out to her till I got back. All that kind of thing's been happening, but that's stopped. And I know I've just been talking about this one with Jeremy, but that's stopped. And it's moved on to this light that we've had interacting and moving around us. Weird. So we've got Martin here. I'm not sure what it relates to, Martin. What do you think they think you saw? not sure what that relates to, Martin. And,
Does he-
that's
is
not
he-
Martin's, well, it's not Martin's fault. I'll just butt in because I'm that slow with questions, Martin. It would have made sense if I'd have put it up sooner.
I think Martin might be on about what did those weird alleged search and rescue people think I saw?
Yes, I would. Agree.
And I said at the time, didn't I, when we did when I came on here and spoke about it, from that point of being at the stand in front of RAF Bempton, when I looked down, I've always said I saw a boat. And you and Linny and the other guys have said you can't get a boat down there next to the cliffs.
No.
And now that I've thought back and thought about it, all I saw was about 20 different coloured lights: blue, green, purple, orange. And my brain mate just computed that has to be a boat.
Fitting it into the box called normal.
Yeah. So potentially, mate, were they checking that I'd seen that? Do you know what I mean? They has to be. They were there for some reason, mate.
That's fascinating, and you've not added to this story afterwards, Andy. You did say that you'd looked down and you thought you'd seen there were lights, and you thought there were a boat below cliffs, and you're not going to get one below cliffs. You know, it'd be foolhardy in the night to take a boat under them cliffs. So that's interesting.
So that's the only thing, Martin, that I could say that they were down there to see if I'd seen anything. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, to be fair, mate, when they said had I seen anything, because in my brain it had computed to be in a boat, I said I hadn't seen anything because at the time I didn't think I had.
Yeah, and a few years ago, I were up there with Bob Brown, and we ended up talking to a rock angler who were from up Durham. He'd come down fishing to Bempton, and I'd asked him if he'd seen anything. And funnily enough, where you were stood, he'd looked down. Bob will remember this, but he'd not seen a group of lights. He'd seen 3 lights, dull amber lights, and he took them to be, you know, the what do they call them? Them buoys that they haven't side up boat. You know,
I know what you mean, mate. Yeah,
the balls, and that's what he believed he'd seen. He didn't know what it was. He couldn't see a boat, but that's what he thought they were, and they were just illuminated by something on boat. But that was the only thing he said he'd seen. So yeah, thanks for that, Martin. All right, Welsh Rebel. Let's have a look at this. Are you okay with questions, Andy?
Yeah, of course I am, mate. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Why do you think there are being more sightings of cryptids than ever before?
I think, mate, because more people are starting to believe in them.
Yeah,
and the more people that come forward, and the more people who say they've seen them, I think more people are starting to think maybe there's something in this. Because if you think people are lying, mate, not everybody is. And I've always said, mate, it only takes one person telling the truth for cryptids to be real. Absolutely. So if there's 1,000 people who said there's a werewolf and 999 of them are lying, but one person's being honest, then cryptids exist. Yeah. And I think that's what it is, mate. I think, like you said before, Paul, I definitely think the phenomena, for whatever reason, has become more accepted now. I don't know whether it's because the government have admitted there's UFOs and people think, well, if those are real, anything else is fair game, mate. I don't know. But I definitely believe, mate, because more people are open to the idea now that they could be real. I think that's why more people are seeing them.
Well, it's brilliant. Like this week, as an example, you know, Michael's come down and he's shared this incredible account with us, which I knew about, you know, a couple of years ago. But to hear him walk and talk us through what he saw, and there's a, you'll not mind me saying it, there's an element of fear and trepidation in his voice and in his actions, you know, because he can't get his head around what he's saying. It doesn't make sense. And like you said earlier, what has anybody, Michael included, me, you, got to gain from saying it except a little bit, a bit of ridicule? And that's why I believe that not just Truth Proof, but channels like this are a safe platform. You know, Gemma's doing moderating, Lee's doing it, Alison when she's got time. Anybody who comes in, we don't flat blank remove people who don't believe. If somebody says, I can't really believe any of this, I'm just listening to what you guys say, comment don't get removed. But if somebody's abusive, then they've gone. Yeah. Because the people that are good enough to share their experiences and the ones that want to listen to this don't want to hear, they're not come to listen to that. You know, and what else can we say? Let's just jump to these questions. I'm rambling away here, aren't I? So, Terence Wills. Oh, Willis. Oh, Wills. Yeah, hi, Paul and Andy. I'm late, but I'm always here for Truth Proof. For the truth. Good man. Where are the spots you're feeling TGE Vale, is thinner here on this planet? Thank you, mates. Great show. Where are the spots? I don't know, Terence. I think there's places all over the world. And do you know, they might be transient as well. You know, I know that doesn't answer your question, but it does seem that certain areas are really, really active, and then it's kind of peters out. But those same areas start to produce the phenomena once again. What do you think?
I would say, mate, to that, the two places where I've been, where I think the veil's thinner, if that's the phrase we want to use, is Bempton and Dartmoor.
Yeah.
Those are the two places, mate, for me that have multi-phenomena, and they happen all of the time pretty much.
Yeah.
So those are the two places, mate, I would say the veil is thinner. But purely because I've only been to those two places, mate, where I've experienced stuff, really.
And I must admit, there's loads and loads of people. I think because we've talked about this location often, and even Speeton and Flamborough, I've got loads and loads of people coming forward. There's a report, and I might have got it wrong earlier when I said 6th of October to the one that I said previous with the Fiesta car. But it's definitely only a few weeks ago, because I think this one's from the 6th of October, and a man and his wife came and stayed at the Haven Holiday Park at Flamborough, Thornwick Bay. He said to his wife, "Shall we go for a night walk?" She said, "Well, sure, yeah, it's full moon. So let somebody do have a look on internet, please, and tell me if that was 6th of October." So they go for a night walk along the cliff tops from Thornwick. He says, and we could hear a sheep bleating in the darkness, real distressed. And so as he's talking, I'm knowing where he is. And I said, "Were you near a big ridge of land? That's the back north side of Danes Dyke." "Yeah, we were. Yeah. So he's got this field with sheep in. So he said, "We shone the torch and we can see it's got its head stuck in the wire fence, the square wire." He said, "It must have been there a while." Excuse me. Must have been there a while because I can see a little bit of blood on the wool. So I jumped over. I went to free it, but me jumping over, it must have been enough for it to free itself.
Yeah.
And off it goes. So that's his first little incident, nothing paranormal. They carry on walking. And they get to Staple Nuke. You know where that is, but anybody that doesn't, just do a little bit of research, some Google Earth, and you'll find Staple Nuke. Staple Nuke is an outcrop of rock, and it looks like a staple, basically, out to sea. Can you hear me okay, Andy?
Yeah.
All right. And he said, we stood looking on that platform, and I just shone the torch down the cliffs. Bearing in mind, we're going from 250 to 350 foot sheer rock face. It sort of ambles down probably 40 foot. It's a very steep incline, and then just goes little vertical, as you know. He says, and as soon as I put my torch on, there's a huge pair of amber eyes looking at me. He says, and the massive eyes and the wide apart. So he says, I instantly know it's not a fox. Instantly. He says, I've done lamping, I've done all sorts of stuff. I've lit up deer eyes up, badger, fox. He said, I know this. He says, they're far too big and they're too wide apart. He says, but interestingly, I can't see an outline. I can see the eyes and I can't see it. It's just a pair of eyes looking at me. So if you'd got a thermal camera, Andy, you could think to yourself, is it a couple of voles or rats that are just sat there? But he's looking at this in the torch beam. And then he said it turned to one side. So if you can picture, I don't know, a bowl, a sphere, and half of it. He says, no, that's illuminated. And I can see that, the bulge of the eye as it's turned to one side. Then it turns back and looks at me. Shout my wife, come and look at this. He says, temporarily I've took the torch off it. And she comes and bang, expecting it to have gone. It's still there. But there's no outline. I don't see ears. I don't see a shape. I just see these eyes looking up at me. That's close to where you were, really. It's close to where we spend a lot of time. What is it? Is this guy mistaken? Does he not know his animals? He sounds like he does. If he's done a little bit of hunting. We're not fans of hunting people on Truth Proof, but let's just lay it out. He's given me the example of why he knows that this into fox, a badger, or a deer. So that's just another interesting one. And let's move on. Let's just
one of my favorite stories, mate. Werewolf stories is in Wolflands. You know the one, the man and woman who see the werewolf near the lighthouse. Is it near the lighthouse?
No, they'd parked at North Landing and they walk along the cliff tops and it's sat on the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, that one. I love that story.
It's close to Lighthouse, but you're at North Landing. That's
Yeah.
that's incredible. It really is, because once again that fear and silence dropped on them. They'd walked and looked out to sea, and you've got outcrops of rock and the inlets where the water comes in. You know, the nabs they call them, and they're walking in a place called Holmes's Gutter. And not that it matters to anybody, but I just we'll paint the picture. If you want to do a bit of Google Earth, you'll find it. And they go down these steps, and they've looked out to sea previously. They're looking out to sea where this thing was seen. There's nothing there. They come back up the steps and they see it, and they can't understand why they've not seen anything before. And they're looking out to sea, and they can see the silhouette and outline of a huge dog thing sat on the end of the cliff. That's what they're telling me. They feel uneasy. They feel nervous. Everything's gone quiet. Lee, obviously the male half of the couple, said, "We're going to have to go." He said he heard a grumble, like a growl. She said, "I never heard it." She said, "But we both saw it drop down and almost slinking along the road over the cliffs. You know, we got along the cliff." And they left. So, and they'd only just come. They'd only just come to area. They'd only been there that day or late that afternoon, and then gone for a little walk from their Airbnb up onto the cliffs. Strange, isn't it? Why are people seeing these things now? More so, and that one in one of the questions, weren't it? A Flamborough man walking home from the pub. You might say, "Oh, you had too much to drink." Claims that as he's walking home up, I think it's Marine Road towards North Landing, accompanying him is a huge silhouette of a dog. Well, there's no dog. How does that work? Yeah, these stories are crazy. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And when I say that, it almost sounds like I'm insulting witness. I'm not. But they're just crazy. It doesn't fit, but that's what they're saying.
Yeah,
you know, and they're no less believable just because you can't. I don't mean you can't get your head around them, people, or some people can't. Don't stop these people seeing and experiencing these things. So let's have a look what this question is. Are we still good for questions, mate?
Yeah, we have it. Yeah, Andy.
What or who do you think the people were you interacted with at Bempton? It's still got a lot of interest. This
yeah,
exciting. Thanks, Jane.
I think Jane, there was some type of government people, either government or private. You know, private, like a private, like I don't want to say Lockheed Martin, mate, but you know, something like that. There were either government people or there was somebody. Because that's the thing, mate. Why lie? Why lie and say you search and rescue? You clearly weren't. I know you weren't. You know, we've done all our fact checking on that, and they definitely weren't search and rescue. So why say you were? Yeah. You obviously didn't want me to know who you were. So if you don't want me to know who you are, you're clearly some type of government or some group that's affiliated with the government in some way. In my view, anyway.
Do you think, Andy, that the tactics were to remove you from them cliffs?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah,
so much. So prior to them coming, obviously, you and your wife or your partner, you're looking over and you're looking at lights that you presume is a boat. What you might not have observed long enough, but what were the boat doing? Was it just stationary, or did it look to be moving?
No, mate, it was stationary, and the only reason, mate, we looked away was because there was that aeroplane above us circling, and then I don't know how long that had been there, mate, but I think it was Leanne who said, "Oh, that plane's just circling," and it was literally, mate, just circling right above us.
It's a fairly big turning circle.
Yeah, it was, mate. Yeah, it was a pretty big turning circle, mate. Yeah, and then it wasn't. And then when I looked back down, the boat was gone. I mean, I'm calling it a boat now because that's what I said originally, didn't I?
And you couldn't hear any diesel engines from a boat.
Nothing, mate. Nope, nothing. And I always thought, mate, you know, especially when you deal with search and rescue, mates are always a helicopter.
Yeah,
because it's more mobile.
We've missed a trick here that we need to follow up on as well, and which will be quite easy because we know date, we know time, we need to check tides. Because I'm saying there's no boats going to get under there, and I still maintain it even on an high tide. They're not going to bring a boat under there. But if it's a low tide, it's even more inconceivable. You know? Have you thought of that?
Yeah, 100%. Like it wasn't, mate, until I came back on to talk about. We were talking about the thing when I met those weirdos at Bempton, And it wasn't, mate, until I started thinking back. And I think it was one of them. I think it was Mark Sparks' question, and it always stuck with me. And he said, "Did they have a Yorkshire accent?"
Mm.
And they didn't, mate. Like that didn't sound robotic, mate, but they sounded monotone. Like they had no accent. You couldn't tell where they were from. It was just like I always like a newsreader's accent. And it wasn't until later on I thought, well, surely they should have sounded like Paul and Linny if they were Brilliant in Search and Rescue, shouldn't they? Like
they don't want to sound like me, Linny or Pete.
But that in itself, mate, was a great question, and that's just something that adds more strangeness to the encounter I had.
That's what's great about people who join us on here, isn't it? Because they're thinking of things we've not thought of.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah,
absolutely. So let's have a look. Terence says, "Do you find the more you look into the abyss, the more it looks back at you?" Yeah, I do. I think so. And you become aware. You're kind of on its radar.
Yeah, I think it is, mate. I think the more you look into it, mate, more avenues open up that you end up going down. Like I say, UFOs was never really on my radar until I saw one, and then people started sharing stories with me. So yeah, once you look at the phenomenon, mate, something looks back, and then, like I say, it's kind of open your eyes to what other possibilities there could be.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's have a look here. Nathan R6X. What does Andy think about cryptids being another form of aliens on the Earth?
You know what, mate? I ended up looking at there was quite a strong correlation, mate, between Bigfoot sightings and people seeing UFOs, and there still is a big correlation between that. Now could it be them something? Could it be them dropping it off as like a lot of the stuff? If people don't know in the chat, obviously, mate, I was ex-military, so a lot of the way I think is still very military based. And are the UFOs dropping off like a recon person? And he's there because obviously, if you would imagine, mate, that pretty much would be the perfect soldier, really strong, robust, can withstand the weather, look after himself. So, is it a case of the UFOs are dropping them off?
Or is it a distraction?
Oh, distraction, mate. Yeah, very well could be.
Is it a distraction? I mean, you're on the same page as me. I'm not fond of the term "the dog man" because it's almost as though people will get lost in the notion of the werewolf because they've wrapped up in movies and silver bullets and the moon. But I think we're looking at the same thing, and people seem to want to argue over the name of it, as though you're not allowed to call it the werewolf because you don't fall into the in vogue category. But all of these things could be distractions for the UFO or the vice versa. It's difficult, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, but like I said, it could be aliens, like you say, Paul. It could be a distraction.
Well, we've done that one. Let's have a look. I'm sorry if we're not getting to your questions, guys, because I just go down them nice and steady, and I've got a pile of questions that I were going to talk to Andy about, but we've not got through them all. But providing you're happy with these questions,
oh yeah, feel free, mate. I love the questions, mate. Yeah.
Right, Shadow 33 again. Paul and Andy, I mentioned to Paul a few weeks ago about the MOD guys up. Yeah, I've got it now. Bempton Cliffs parked up with the kit who chatted with us. Yeah. They said they're researching something ongoing. They came from the MOD Donington. It'd be interesting to know what they're researching. Those, yep, got it now.
See now that Shadow said that, mate. That makes out to me that the people I met weren't MOD, because if they've told Shadow they were MOD,
play the hand, would they? They wouldn't play the hand.
So why? So if they've admitted to Shadow they were MOD, why wouldn't they just tell me they were MOD?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense. And just out of interest, anybody else? I don't mean that everybody is looking into that, but anybody else that has any information about that, get in touch. I mean, we've been having a lot of strange things happening on the phone, on all of our phones. And I've listened to UFO researchers in the past, and they're saying, "Oh, my mail's being intercepted, and there's something happening on our phones." And there's not a lot happened on phones over years to me, but just recently things have been happening on the phones. And I mean, one strange one is there's 3 landlines, all different service providers: TalkTalk, BT, EE. And I'm talking to a relative on my landline, and and I'm talking to this relative, and our conversation appears on another phone, as a recording on someone else's phone, which is impossible, Andy.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I've spoke to Chris Wright about it, who works for OpenReach and that. And what we're talking about is impossible. I've recorded it. I took the little camera in and recorded it on their answer phone. And why were we listening to their answer phone? And let me just clarify it briefly for people. It's because this person who's a relative of mine has learning difficulties, and we pick up his messages in case there's a doctor's appointment. Incredibly, the conversation I had with someone else is on his answer phone. That's impossible.
Well, that's how we ended up on here tonight, mate, didn't we? You sent me a message and said, "I'm sorry, I've missed your call, Andy."
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, yeah. I'm just talking about phones. You fill us in on that one then.
Yeah, so I finished work early the other day. When was it, Paul? Was it Wednesday? It was Wednesday, wasn't it, yesterday?
Yeah.
And as I'm walking, I see a message ping up from Paul. So I opens it, and it was a voice note, and he was like, "Hello, Andy, mate. Sorry, I missed your call yesterday. Give me a ring back, mate, if I can help with anything." So I dropped him a message, and I said, "Oh, I didn't ring you, mate. It's not me." And I sent you a screenshot. Didn't have. I think the last outgoing call I made was the 8th of October. I think. And you were like, "Yeah," and you were like,
"All my messages from you." There's only one message from October. That's all there is, and our texts and everything have gone.
Yeah,
you're in my phone, because initially when we first started talking, you told me about a big cat sighting.
Yeah.
Now because I know loads of people called Andy potentially, or Dave, or anything. I'll label it with something that it just texts me instantly to it, and I put Andy Hardy Big Cats. So that's still there, and that's the number that rang me. Yeah, it's just crazy.
And then I was like, "Look, mate, it's not me." And then when you were trying to ring me, it was ringing 10 times and then saying the number didn't exist.
Yeah. If Linny's in and Pete's in, I rang it on the cliff tops last night. I told them about it, and so normally what it does, it says you have dialed an incorrect number, and if you do that, it tells you straight away, guys. Everybody in chat knows that, but not this one. It'll ring for 10 times and then go, "You have dialed an incorrect number."
Yeah.
Crazy.
But it would still let us text, mate, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So we were still texting, and then you said to me, "Andy, try and ring me just to see if it works." So then I rang you, and then just a number came up, didn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. With no name.
It's just a strange. Yeah, absolutely. So
and then you also said to me, "Andy, did you send me a voice note on the 8th of June, I think?" And when I went back on my phone, everything from, weirdly, mate, it was everything since what happened to me at Bempton. So literally, mate, the last message is, "I'm free at 12:30, Paul, if you want to talk about what happened to me at Bempton." And then everything, mate, is wiped away. Everything up until the end of August, when I come back on the show, everything's gone.
Which is strange, and I ain't got it. It's all gone on mine, So that's really odd. And guys, that weren't even planned to talk about, but that's the reason I ended up speaking to Andy, because I just replied to the missed call from him. So there we go. Let's have a look. Let's do this. If not already asked, what are we thinking about peer-reviewed slides of objects around the Earth? Oh, God, Lisa, I don't know. I mean, I take it you're thinking about things like the Atlas comet, are you, or UFOs? I don't know. Any views?
I didn't. I haven't seen any of them, mate. So sorry, Lisa, I can't.
Peer-reviewed slides. And I'll have to apologise straight out, Lisa, because as I'm keen to tell everybody, like, I live in my little bubble, and I don't seem to get involved with it. It don't interest me what other people are doing. It's interesting. It's not uninteresting, but I'm that wrapped up in what I'm doing and my own stuff. I mean, Lisa, seriously, we've got some footage. There's footage what Linny took, which must be, I think you've seen it, Andy. It must be some of the best in the world.
Yep, it is, mate. Yeah.
Stuff out there. There's footage that I've took that's absolutely amazing, and we really need to start getting this stuff out so people can see just exactly what's been happening up there. I mean, and then so sorry, Lisa, I'm not really much help to you there, am I? Let's just keep going down. I'm not really reading. Oh, Lisa, again, I often feel like we're living in an episode of Westworld. Yeah, it's like cartoon land, isn't it? Sometimes. Absolutely. And do you think everything though is sort of pre-planned in our lives? Or perhaps it is. You know, some people just run through life having bad luck, and some people just seem to just fall on good luck wherever they fall. I don't know. Or do we make our own luck? You know. Right.
I do think, mate, there's an element of I do think there's an element of that.
Where you can see how life shapes people's faces, can't you?
Yeah.
You can see people who permanently look angry or have got a frown on the face, and they're shaped by life experiences. I know we're not doing that. We're an unexplained phenomena. I see Rick Allen's in. Good to see you, Rick. Obi-Wan Kenobi. We've done X-Rocket. Let's have a look here. Let's have a look. Interesting thing about the fear is, why would something give off a sense of fear? A warning if it is going to attack? Well, that's maybe, yeah. I think the reality of it is the opposite. You won't know until it's too late. Yeah, good point. But what if 40, and what if it, and this is Chris, isn't it? Yeah, what if, Chris, what if it's feeding off it? What if it's feeding off our energy? Yeah, and is that too far-fetched? You know, we've talked about vampires, and not in the blood-sucking sense. We're the emotional type, and we've all been around people, and you're exhausted when you've finished talking to them. It's almost like they maybe don't even know they're doing it, but they drain your energy. Some people just are absolutely a drain on your energy. You dread talking to them. Oh God, this is another half an hour that's going to just waste your life. I don't know.
Maybe it's a case of, mate, you know, there's always people. There's no talk about infrasound. Do these creatures give off infrasound, and we're just interpreting it as fear?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we could be looking at it completely wrong. And what Fortune's just said, he could be on the money. Let's have a look at this. Mementos. When you learn to play an instrument, you then hear the rhythms that you learn in other things. Okay.
I haven't got a musical board in my body, mate, so I wouldn't be able to help you with that one.
Do you know something? As just a little story. We'll just go off it, unexplained phenomena for a moment. 4 daughters and Jessica. Please, hey, take a moment, guys. Let me just say this: if you've not pressed like and subscribe to the channel, it's again you're somewhere on your phone or on your PC or on your laptop. Give it a like and give it a subscribe if you've not done it. It's totally free, and you're just supporting us. If we bored you enough for the last hour and a half, that's the least you can do. But where I'm going with this is, one of our daughters, Jessica, has got an incredible voice. So if you go onto YouTube and find her voice, Resound, it's a Z. Resound is their channel. Beautiful music and beautiful song. But where I'm going with this, with instruments, years ago, our Laura, who's probably in chat, so she'll not thank me for this, she wanted to play saxophone. So we bought her a saxophone. She had lessons, and Jessica could just pick it up and play it. She's got a flute. She can play it. When she went to university, her voice was her instrument. You know, and some people are just gifted to be able to do things. It's like in all sorts of things, isn't it? Champions are born. You might want to be best runner in the world and do everything right and eat all right foods. But some people are just genetic superiors, and some people are just gifted to research and to look into things. No matter how hard you try, I think that people are placed in certain environments and placed in certain places in the world and in life because they're just born to do it. But I don't know, a bit philosophical.
There's a question here, mate, that I've got here, and it says, question for Andy: do you ever deliberately go out trying to encounter phenomena? From Jai Smith. Yeah, I do, mate, every time I go out. every time I go, mate, I'm willing. I'm willing for something to happen, mate. I want something to happen. Even though I've seen some scary stuff, mate, and some creepy stuff, I still feel extremely lucky to have seen what I've seen. You know, when you see people who go all their life, you know, they put all the time and effort in, like me and you do, Paul. But unfortunately, they don't get the rewards. So even though I've seen some scary stuff, I still feel incredibly lucky to have seen what I've seen.
Yeah, I would echo that, and I think for the most part, most people in chat will have. That's why they're here. They've seen and experienced something that's affected them, and you're all looking for it. We're all looking for it. We're all on the same ship, should we say, aren't we? It's not necessarily a spaceship, but we're all doing the same thing. And invariably we don't find it. But what's keeping you here and what's keeping you looking to the skies or looking into woodlands is the fact that you know the reality of it. And that's why you're doing it, Andy. That's why you've sat here and given us an hour and 3/4 of your time tonight. And just what can I say? There's more and more people sort of with eyes open now knowing the reality of it. And that's just how it is, you know. Let's just have a look. We've got another one here. This question's great. Mark Leeper, Mark's the guy who saw the triangle. We've had him on one Sunday, which were interesting. Hi, Paul and Andy. Any clues on where the flying triangles are being kept?
100% mate, they're being kept on military bases somewhere. So we did, mate. So we did. These are pointing this, guys. Trust me, right? So I went scuba diving with the army, mate, and it would have been after I got back from Afghan. So it would have been maybe around February or March 2014, and all the scuba diving equipment that we lent, we had to take back to I think it was Bisley, somewhere down south. But anyway, so me and one of the lads has jumped in a Land Rover and we're heading down to drop all this kit back off. And on the way down, mate, different army camps, you could stop and fill a vehicle up for free, obviously with their military fuel.
Yeah.
And we pulled off the main road onto a camp that I can't remember the name of it now, guys, off the top of my head, but it used to be a British Army camp. And when we rocked up as we were going to the front gate, I remember saying to my mate Marty, I said, "This isn't a British Army camp because they're in different clothing, in different uniforms." Instantly stands out. And when we got to the gate, it was an American soldier, and he was like, "Turn round, you're not coming in here," type thing. And Marty went, "But we need to refuel." And he was like, "Don't care. This is pretty much what he said, mate. Was this is US sovereign soil, and you're not getting on." And a couple of months before, mate, it was British. So how many times, mate, that happens, and the public just don't learn about it. And like I said, mate, they weren't going to let us on. Well, we didn't get on anyway. We had to turn around. It was pretty touch and go whether we'd break down the motorway from lack of fuel. But the 100%, mate, there'll be loads of bases out there that are like that way you could keep them triangles.
And does that imply then that you, Andy, think that all of the triangles are man-made?
You know what I think, mate? I think once upon a time that the triangles, mate, were potentially something like, what do they call them? NHIs, non-human intelligence. Potentially, mate, it could have been, because, like you say, Paul, they saw them in the 1800s, didn't they? I think.
That's some of them. Well, I think John's got some from very, very early 1900s. John Hanson. Yeah,
and that's
what they're describing.
100%, mate. Yeah, so I think, mate, in the 1900s that there were something NHI or some of the life form, and I think the ones we've got today are ones we've made. I think we've got one at some point, and we've reverse engineered it, or we've made something in the design of what they were cutting about back in the day. And I think most ones are now are probably ours.
Yeah, it's only my thoughts, and I could be completely wrong, but when people describe them as looking as or appearing as big as a football pitch, I mean, that's monstrous, isn't it? And it's motionless. It's motionless, and it's silent, apart from probably giving off some kind of static type hum, and then it moves away at incredible speed, or in some instances just at Humminby, when they didn't say as big as football pitches. Those three triangles that came over just disappeared. They didn't fly away.
You see the ones that are the size of a football field, mate? I don't think that's us.
No, I don't see how it could be.
And to be fair, mate, and I know I've spoke on eBay, I've seen some strange stuff, but I just can't wrap my head around, mate, that we could make something that big and that good. Do you know what I mean? Like the smaller ones, I think, yeah, potentially they could be ours. But like you say, mate, when you're making something the size of an aircraft carrier and it's silent and it's stationary, it's not making a sound, and then they'll go away at the blink of an eye, it just seems it's a stretch too far, I think, for me.
I would agree. I think we've got to ask this because we've got 10 minutes left, and you've given us all this time tonight, Andy, and I appreciate it. Does Andy H have a channel? I know we've done this really early in stream, but we'll do it again. Just give us some info, Andy.
Yes, so if you put into YouTube, guys, if you just put Andy H, Shadows and Sightings, their channel should come up.
And same as with this channel, like and subscribe, and give Andy some support, please. And I'll just take a minute and also say that anybody interested in the Truth Proof books, and if you'd not been here before and you didn't know, written 5 books, including The Night People, and the others are Truth Proof. They can all be off the truthproof.uk website. I don't know whether Gemma, Alison, or Lee might put a link up to it. If not, don't worry about it. You'll find it, truthproof.uk. And if you ordered one tonight, for instance, it'll be in post tomorrow. If you wanted the DVD, Wolflands, myself and Les Drake made it. That'd be the same case. And you can also get the Truth Proof books. Look at that. He's got a rare copy there that's bringing down the light.
Yeah, that's the first one I got, mate, I think, off you.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, me and Chris made Bringing Down the Light. Me and Les did Wolflands. And if you wanted the books, we'll just end that quickly. They're also available Kindle downloads, or this is on Amazon Prime. So there you go, guys. Thanks for that. And let's just move on. I don't know whether you want to cover any more questions or whether we're just going to do a few reports. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I enjoy the questions, mate. If you want, you just list the questions.
Let's do it. Fortean, do you have many accounts of multiple people experiencing that sense of fear, Paul or Andy? It seems to be a one person in a group picks up on it. For the most part, Andy, yeah. I think I don't have many multiple experiences of the fear. What about you?
The only thing, mate, I've got with multiple fear was, the story I told you, Paul, about seeing that shadow man on Dartmoor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just tell us about it.
Now, 6 people saw that, and all 6 of us were terrified of it. So that's the only thing, mate, where and so it was multiple people, Chris, but it wasn't all at once, because obviously when we were on Stag, it was 2-hour intervals. So as one person left, another one came on, and each person are rolling people. So each person every hour who came on saw it and got the same fear. So that's the only thing I've got, mate, with that. That's the only time I've ever, multiple people get it. Yeah.
We'll just quickly do this. I'm not going to read this out too much. Right. So Tony Dodd mentioned the human fatalities, right? And this is in North Yorkshire. Have you uncovered any more evidence of those claims anywhere else? No, but I know Tony did mention it, and we did cover a little bit of it in documentary Wolflands. And I don't know, it's a terrifying thing, isn't it? Thinking about the human abduction scenario and anything that's connected to it. And I know it frightened Tony. I know all of this frightened Tony towards the end of the research. And how do I know that? Because I were in contact with Tony. Anybody who wants to read a good book, look up Alien Investigator, Tony Dodd. It's an interesting book. Tony's no longer with us, but as Chris Evers knows, Outer Limits magazine there. So listen, guys, as well. Look up Outer Limits magazine and subscribe to Outer Limits magazine. It's packed with interesting articles and stories. So that might be somewhere that you might want to look as well. But just to jump away from it, looking into an aircraft crash over the North Sea, XS894, the Lightning, I found a lot of information that Tony had never found out, and we were exchanging information. But he said that he'd had threats to his life when looking into it. He said, so I don't want to pursue it. I'll exchange information. I've still got all emails with you and help as much as I can. And I don't know. Once again, that's a load of research that's just disappeared when Tony passed. I don't know where it is, which is a shame. But anyway,
I do think, mate, those alleged search and rescue people.
Yeah, go on.
I've seen it with Bentham. Because I've thought about it a lot since it happened, and I'm thinking, mate, maybe they were up there to meet you. I've thought that a couple of times. Maybe they were actually there to see you and Lenny, the guys who go up there every night, and they just stumbled across me.
Well, there was something happened, and I didn't come up there one night, funnily enough, and there were a couple of odd people up there. Lenny will remember this, and they were acting very peculiar, and they wouldn't kind of leave. I wouldn't say leave them alone as in talking. They were just hovering about, and quite unnerving, but I don't know who they were. Let's have a look here. Andy, have you ever watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Everything that happens around Bempton area reminds me of the initiative Underground Research into Cryptids, Some Escaped. Similarities are scary.
Yes, I loved that program when I was younger. You know what, mate? That's one of those things where I would love to be part of something like that. Like something that was paid, that you just did it for a living. I do it 7 days a week. and just research cryptids, mate, and just research the phenomena. Honestly, mate, it would be my dream job. Other people want to be footballers and want to be music stars. I want to be paid to research cryptids for a living.
Well, do you know something? The hours and hours that I put into this, and hours and hours of getting up at like 4, 5 in the morning, trying to answer emails and that, and there's. If it were an high-paid job, I wouldn't be riding around in my beat-up old Honda. Let's put it that. That's it. I'm sorry about questions, guys. I'm sure there's going to be loads that we're not even going to get to here because I just pick them as I'm doing them. Do you feel the MOD are watching your broadcast, Paul, just to see what followers of the channel have been observing. You're quite possibly giving them information they weren't aware of. Great show. Yeah, anything's possible. I like to think that we don't take ourselves that seriously, that we think we're that important. But what we've talked about tonight with strange things happening on phone, that is unusual, and it's been for weeks and weeks now. And Pete's been hearing people talking on phone while we've been talking. Ian's heard it. Other people outside of this community who I've spoken to on phone have said somebody's just spoke. Did you hear it? And fascinating. Incidentally, we were in Danesdyke filming, or around area filming, with Chris Turner last week. No, and as we're walking round, I say, somebody just say my name. Nobody heard it. Nobody heard anybody. Ian got back to me tonight. He's reviewed his footage on his little Pocket 3 DJI, and just before I say it, a voice goes, Paul, and he's got it on film. So I must have it because I were filming as well. You know what I mean? But it was just one of them passed off. I thought it was one of other lads that had just said my name. No, we didn't say it. They weren't even near me. But I just heard somebody say Paul, which is it's fascinating, isn't it?
I think the MOD mate must be watching, because to be fair, if nothing else, mate, it's a free source of information, isn't it? Like they're getting all the research without doing any work. Yep.
Let's have a look at this. We're nearly there, Dave, but we just get this one. I know this is Dave here. Sorry, I'm late. You will recall the steel doors at sea level in the cliffs. Ari, Andy, boats and lights. Well, a lot of people have talked about the steel door in the cliff, Dave, for years and years, and I've spoke to people who claim they've seen it. I've gone down on exceptionally low tides with people that I know are safe enough to get me right along the bottom of the cliffs. If you can't get as far as where Andy, literally, Dave, you can't get as far as where Andy was stood. You just can't get that far. There's water and rocks there all year round, but you can get under Speeton, and I've been to submarine at Speeton. But is the steel door in the cliffs? Is it a reality? Is it just some kind of fantasy? Spoke to people that said they've seen it. And once again, not interested in UFOs, not interested in anything. Has there been a rock fall and it's covered it? Because we can see great big, what I would call shakes in the rock. You know, as a joiner, you know what I mean. You see a
yeah, I know what you mean, but
like a little split, a little bit of a wavy part in timber where you know it's going to break away. Well, you can see shakes in the rock where it looks like it's going to fall out. The thousands of tons. Well, if there has been a steel door there, there could have been a rock fall, and that's why we can't see it anymore. I don't know. There's enough people told me, Dave, that the steel door from the base to the cliff face is there for me to believe that it is there. But yeah, okay. We're just about there with this, mate. I don't want to keep you too long. Let's have a look. I think this is, yes, full moon, the 6th. Thanks a lot, Steve. Super moon, and that's when they saw those eyes. I think, you know, looking up at them.
Yeah.
So superb. Let's have a look. I think that's what we're doing, aren't we? Lee Roscoe, Paul Sinclair, your Laura's in chat. Good to see you, Laura, or hear you. Well, I've not even seen you, but saw you earlier today. And lost your bank card as well. Managed to get some money out of your mum. I've not forgot. Joke. Yeah. So let's have a look. Let's just keep going down. We're okay. Well, right. Okay. What we got here? Linny says the plane was the plane.
Oh, yeah, it was, mate. Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Ian. And I think we're going to just about wind it up in a moment, guys. I just want to put that up. Thanks. That's come round again, that. But thank you. And anybody else that we've missed your questions, guys, because I can see there's loads of. Jessica has a real haunting voice, Dragonborn says, and she does. I'd recommend anybody go on to Resound on YouTube, have a listen to Jessica. I'm being biased, it's my daughter, but have a listen to the music her and her husband produce, and press a like and subscribe, and do the same for this channel, please. And get on Andy's channel. What's it called again, Andy?
Shadows and Sightings, mate. Andy H. Shadows
I
and
had remembered, but I wanted you to say it. So, guys, I think we're going to wind this up. We've got one more question. I said that. Paul, Andy, do you remember the 1990s that Michael Howard? No. Black Triangles MPV had. Black triangles on land on his property. No, I don't. Do you?
No, I don't, mate. No, but again, like I said, the UFO thing, mate, is quite probably a relatively new thing for me.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. All right. Last question, and he's going to get this one. This is at 14. Black VW Golf with 3 people pulled up outside my house and filmed for about 90 seconds tonight. Got them on film. Shared. Rather than speak to you, they creep about in the dark. Weirdos on record. We shall see, Andy. Chris, but thanks for that, mate. And I think on that note, have you anything else to say before we close this down?
No. Thanks for having me on, mate. I love coming on. I love chatting about this stuff, and thanks to everybody in the chat and for all the good questions tonight.
Absolutely, because we've got more for Andy, and we haven't needed them because there are all these questions. And I'm sorry if you feel shortchanged if you put a question in and we haven't asked it. So, first truth proof for a couple of weeks. Hopefully, we're going to make the Sundays, at least the Sundays, a regular Sunday truth proof, and I might, we'll try and put that one up to 2 hours because time's just been tight. But from myself and from Andy, good night, everyone, and thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Oh, wow.
Saw it twice. So I was like, oh my god.
That was just weird.
I always used to see a light coming up,
Yeah.
like a headlight, but there was nobody there.